here at the historical Secord Gallery on Quinpool Road, and I am joined this evening by the illustrious abstract artist, Leya Evelyn. Welcome to Gallery 902.
Thank you.
We're so happy to have you here this evening. You are filled with stories, and I'd love for you to take us back to your university days and paint a picture for us of the time and what was happening in the world then.
Well, I guess the first thing you'd notice is it was very different. There were, boys' dorms, girls' dorms. We wouldn't even eat together. We'd have separate dining rooms. So classes were together, thankfully. And it was just extremely different. There were so many rules of what you could and couldn't do. We had curfews, had to be sign in, sign out, had to be back in the dorm by 10 o'clock at night.
There were a lot of rules.
A lot of rules, and I've always liked to kind of break rules and not believe in labels, so I would do things like go out without signing out, and then nobody knew I was out.
Now, when you went out, what did you want to go do? Did you want to see things? Tell us.
No, there wasn't anything to see in Providence. Not much. So, but I was an English lit major, and I loved to read. I still do. And I took a few art classes, not too many. I don't really enjoy history of any kind. Art history is a little more interesting. And, well, it's interesting, it's just I don't enjoy it. And then one day, one of the other fellow students said, let's go down in the basement and paint. And I felt something then that I had never felt in my whole life, and it felt so joyous,
Did you feel free?
Yeah, it was very different. I did a self-portrait on a big piece of cardboard in very brilliant colors, like purple, yellow, pink. I remember it well because I took it home after school. That was when I decided I was going to I thought I might change majors, but I stayed with literature. And
But you considered changing after that moment.
Yeah, but that's when I really liked my literature studies, and then I applied for graduate school in art, and when I took the painting home, the next door, we took it out of the car, and the next door neighbor said, "What's that?" "The booby prize." And I think that's so typical of how I feel about people's reaction. Either you take it or leave it. I mean, it's what it is. And I think my paintings are they're either very good or a booby prize, however you want to look at it.
They are amazing,
Thank
Evelyn. Abstract art, I think, is difficult for some people.
For some people, yeah, and I think to let yourself look. And from Brown, I went to Yale for art, and I was supposed to get a master's. So I skipped the foundation year. And
because you were brilliant. You didn't need a foundation year. Yes, you have to own that. Let's go back to you just got accepted to Yale. And tell us the year. What year is it at this time?
1959. And I remember they had an assembly of an alumni hall of the females. We were told we were the silent generation, so we weren't. I think the next generation that came along were much more openly rebellious, and they weren't covertly rebellious like me. So I really wanted to go to Cooper Union, but
that was your first choice?
My first choice, but my parents didn't want me to go to New York, basically. And I think the choice, my ending up at Yale was very good for me because it was such a disciplined program. And
tell us about the program.
The curriculum was Joseph Albers, whose work was from the Bauhaus tradition, because that was him. And it was very intense. We would do things that I don't think you could, well, I know you can't get the students to do these days, things like spend a 3-hour drawing class drawing straight lines for 3 hours.
And so you're thinking in your head, like, what am I doing? Why am I here?
Well, for the first 2 months, and then we had a color class, and one class was these exercises of Joseph Alber's book, you know, the interaction of color, and those are hard enough. And then the other class was what we called color studies, which are basically collage without texture. And in that you just really learn to manipulate color so that it's not a study, it's making it work, you know, how relative one color, that's the main thing, how relative color is, depending on where it is, how much, and what it's next to, and the shape and whatever.
That's incredible. So no texture.
No
collage,
texture.
just using.
And pieces of paper.
But really that's quite powerful because it forced you to focus. At what point did you find in the program, did a switch go off? Because you weren't enjoying it as much as you thought at the beginning. What happened? What took place?
Well, I spent a weekend just studying color with a fellow classmate who was a year ahead of me, and also, actually, he ended up teaching at Yale for years later.
So he really got it.
Yeah, he was very good with the color, and he was a good teacher. So I ended the weekend really understanding more about color. I don't know, there was this thing about what it really means, how to use color and the relativity of it, and how it's about placement, scale, how much you're using, where, what it's next to. And it's really also very relative, like the thing that they kept saying, Joseph, I was always saying that you can say fire engine red and 10 people will come up with a different red.
Yes.
Or you can take a dozen eggs and make scrambled eggs, or you can make a souffle, and they're very different. And so that kind of thinking goes throughout the whole program of it's what you do with it, not what it is.
So Leya, tell us what happens at the end of that year at Yale.
Well, I had really felt like I had a much better understanding of painting, and certainly an intensified desire. But, well, then I went to, my plan was to go back, but I went to New York and sublet Alex Katz's loft in Manhattan on 28th and 7th Avenue. And there were other artists in the building, of course. It was a loft building. And
how old are you at this point in New York, in Manhattan?
I was 21 when I graduated university, so I must have been 22.
That's a dream.
For some people, I didn't think of it that way. I mean, I just did it, like most things I do.
But your plan initially was that you were just going there for the summer.
Yeah, it was a 3-month sublet.
And there were other artists there as well?
In the building, yeah.
Okay. Did you get to know them?
Oh, yeah. And the person below me, I really became good friends with. And he said the way to get to meet people in Manhattan or New York is to have a party. So I had a party.
Really? This is like a great opportunity for you to network as well.
Well, what we did was, the person who lived below me, Norman, his name was Norman Cantor. That guy, I can remember. And he went to the Cedar Bar, which is where all the artists hung out in those days. And I don't think it's the same. Well, I know it's not the same. They moved up and changed the name. But just said, there's a party at so and such a place. And so everybody showed up. I made friends with people and had a wonderful summer doing temp typing and going places and, enjoying New York.
And were you also experimenting with your art and learning maybe different techniques from other
I was using oils. I remember, I think I did one painting that I still think about, but I gave it to a friend, and then I have a lousy photo of it. But the interesting thing for me is that it's not that different from what I'm doing now. It's what in those days we called figure ground, like the field in something. But I don't know if they still use that expression anymore. I don't know what contemporary lingo is. But in any case, I was experimenting. I didn't know how to paint abstract, nor did I know what I wanted to do. I would just know when something worked.
Yes, when you were done.
When I was happy with something, when something felt right. There's something about painting, I can't explain it.
How you feel.
I just love doing painting.
It sounds like it goes back to the very first story that you told us when you went down.
Well, but that's when I discovered how much I love painting. I'd always been drawing and doing little pen and ink sketches. But I did take a calligraphy class and I hated it. I just don't like being boxed in.
The structure.
The structure.
Yes.
And I remember one day I was working on the calligraphy and I was at somebody else's desk, of course. And because I was always painting in the classroom, but I was doing the calligraphy and exercise, and Joseph Albers came in, he gave me a little critique on it.
Would he come in quite often?
No.
And just once in a while he'd walk up.
Yeah. Then he asked me if the paintings on the wall were mine, and I said, no, mine are on the other side of the room. And so we went over to my desk, and he looked at him, and he got all excited and gave me a big kiss. Here.
On your head, but that's huge.
Oh yeah, but at the time, he gave me a real blessing, and it was hard to take in. It's like everything was, as you can see, it still is.
It is like, but I think also during that time, I think it was hard for women to accept that when they were being acknowledged and being told that.
Yeah.
Were there many women in your class at that time? Or just a few?
I don't remember too many, but I'm sure there were. But they weren't expected. I mean, I didn't think, I still don't think about those kinds of things. I mean, I know I'm reminded frequently, but it doesn't help. It just, I'm going to paint, whatever I am, My sexuality has nothing to do with, sexuality, yes, but sex, no.
Who was it that advised you to maybe have the courage to leave Yale and go to New York?
There was a classmate at Yale who said, if you want to be an artist, you have to go to New York. Well, he had gone to Cooper Union before Yale. And so, of course, I was envious. But I'm glad I didn't go to Cooper because it was a much freer place. You could do anything you wanted there. I was in a very disciplined program, which is what I needed personally, because I can be as free as I want. Well, I've learned over the years how to let that go, be more open with my work than I was, but that's all. It's been a process, but my training helped.
It did, it brought everything together.
Yeah.
It's wonderful that you can look at that and realize that you did need that. But I think it was important that you went to New York, and it was brave to do it during that time as well. It was just the early 60s, and you went on your own.
And the subway was 10 cents. And I'd ride the subway at 3 o'clock in the morning and not even worry. I mean,
that is amazing.
It's the way things were.
Leya, this is one of my favorite parts of the show, where we get to talk about your showcase. We are surrounded by your art. Where would you like to start?
I guess in general, I'd just like to say most of my work, especially in the past, is reworked. I work it, and it's like I'm searching, and often don't find it right away or think I have, and then I have to redo it.
When you say reworking, describe that.
Well, I often take a painting that is returned after being in an exhibit and actually paint on it again for several reasons. One, I can do better, make something that feels better, or has more excitement for me, and art supplies are too expensive.
No, but you're challenging yourself again.
Yeah, and one way I do it is to take it and flip it, turn it to another angle, and it makes something that was stable before unstable, so it's got a charge. It's like,
You stand back and look at it again, and you just wait till you feel something new.
Oh yeah. No, sometimes I don't wait, and I just make random marks and pull them together somehow.
That's magical. And that's how we're getting this. The one behind me, I just had goosebumps when I saw this one. It's, again, I think that an abstract painting speaks to you when it's the one that you get.
That's the ideal reaction, rather than to get into what does this mean, or what is she doing, or why did she put that there. Just feel it.
Feel it, just feel it.
It's not about anything other than what your reaction is and how you can live with it. I have one painting in my living room that I've reworked several times, which means I have to take it outside, down the stairs, and into my studio. Sometimes I get it photographed, and I've stopped photographing it. Bring it back up, rework it, take it down, rework it, take it back up. Anyway, now I'm happy with it.
So, your studio, you do it in panels and then bring it up.
Yeah, the panels help me to make something larger, and I can still transport it. And as I get older, of course, it's easier to have it in panels than in one big heavy paint.
So you do it in these panels, and then it's also easier to transport, okay?
Yeah, it'll fit in my car. And then, shipping, everything, the whole thing is easier.
There's a lot of factors that go
Plus,
into it.
playing with the way the images on each panel interact and skip, but I'm not taking one painting from one side to the other. It's there, each one is a separate painting, but they go together and talk to each other.
That's beautiful.
And then, of course, hopefully they'll talk to you in your language.
Absolutely. The one behind you, this is a newer work. The colors.
I've been trying to get away from using the same colors all the time. I tend to really like certain colors and feel very comfortable with them, but it's nice to feel uncomfortable. Well, more than nice, it's a challenge, and I like to challenge myself. The only thing I find the hardest kind of painting is a horizontal one. I do things very vertical.
Vertical, you like vertical.
But I'm trying to get away from the just vertical, and which in here you just, I don't know that that's the first thing you think about here as much as some of the other work I've done. But
I love that you're so petite and you love to work up, you love to work vertical. That speaks volumes to you and who you are and your personality.
Well, there was time, it's very obvious. I've always had that tendency. I like big furniture, my high ceilings in my house. I had to fight for that. And I remember once recognizing that my handwriting, I wanted to make it big. It wanted to be big, but I was keeping it small. So I think that had something to do with what's happening as I get older, that bigness is coming out because it can't stay hidden anymore. It's like,
And we don't want it to.
Pandora's box is open now.
We want all of it, Leya.
Yeah.
I want Studio 54, Leya. I want...
Probably don't. Okay.
This is all you, though. This is how you've come to be where you're at right
Oh,
now.
yeah. Yeah. So it's like I often, I mean, I didn't know what was going to I don't know when I start what I'm going to end up with. Just the other day, I started a painting, and I was convinced it was going to end up being another indigo painting, and then I thought, well, I don't want another one hanging around that nobody's going to want, because people really do find that just a little too difficult. So I started, and yet I had made it this pretty blue, and I didn't like, blue is a very difficult color for me. So I put an ochre over the blue. It came out this exquisite color green. And it was just an accident. It was just like it happened. And the same here, the fact that the green and the blue, it wasn't planned. I mean, like nothing is planned. It just, I don't know where you say it. I could get kind of airy-fairy and say it talks to me, but it's its own, it has its own logic.
Its own energy.
Yeah.
Really?
It's like I have to be tuned into what the painting wants. It's not, I can try to impose myself, but usually the painting wins.
It just works through you.
Yeah, and if it's too tight, that's when I'm really knowing that I'm imposing too much.
You feel that.
Well, I'm more and more.
This is incredible for an artist just starting out, you know, that would not, they haven't even touched the surface of any of that yet.
Well, it's fascinating how long it takes to really mature as an artist.
It's lifelong. Yeah, it really is.
And I feel like I'm just beginning. There's a wonderful quote. I have a book of Michelangelo's quotes, and there's a wonderful one in there. It says, Michelangelo on his deathbed said, "It's a pity I'm dying and I'm just beginning to learn my craft." And I can completely understand that, and I hope I don't feel that way on my deathbed, that I haven't at least gotten farther than the beginning.
You have gone way beyond.
No, but I know I know what he was saying. I mean, I know the feeling that there's so much that you can do and you want to do, and there's, you know, you don't have all the time in the world.
And you start to realize that.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing about aging.